Do you need a psychic to talk to your loved ones that are in spirit? I don't think so. And today's video is going to be all about how you can connect with your loved ones who are passed. First off, I just wanted to say I'm in my new filming studio. I wanted to set this up for ever. I've got some of my certificates behind me and some cool stuff. And if you want to see how I sort of turned our shed into this little filming studio, check out that video above. So as a medium, a lot of people come to me because they want to speak to their loved ones in spirit. And I absolutely love doing that. I love connecting to people's family members, aunts, uncles, grandparents, all that fun stuff. But one thing I find interesting is how some people just want to set up a reading with me to communicate one thing to their loved one. You know, maybe there was some regret there, maybe there was a question, or maybe they just want to communicate, hey, I love you, I miss you. And although that's fine, I feel like that's a big waste of their time and money spent with me just to kind of communicate that one thing. And don't get me wrong, it's not like the whole reading is just that and we're done. But I think that a lot of people just kind of have this one thing that they want to communicate, and they feel like they can't communicate that to their loved one unless they see a psychic. And recently my cousin passed away. And this sort of came up again as an issue that I saw with all of my family members. And it was sort of like everyone was texting me, calling me, saying, hey, if you feel him, reach out and say these things. Say I love him, say I'm sorry, say this, say that. And it was funny because everyone did this to me, and it's kind of been a blessing in disguise because his passing has made me realize a bunch of things that I'm going to turn into videos. But it's funny because almost everyone that has sent me this, I kind of reply back and I'm like, hey, you guys can talk to him too. You guys can talk to your loved ones in spirit. You don't need to come through me. I'm not your email service. You guys can talk just as easily, and your loved ones in spirits can hear you just fine. And I think why a lot of people feel like they have to go to a psychic and not talk to that spirit themselves is for two reasons. I think they, one, doubt that, that message is getting across, and that might be because of religious beliefs. We might not know if that loved one is really in spirit, did they cross over? Is there an afterlife? All of that. And I think the second thing that people doubt is their ability to connect with that spirit. And so again, that's why they go see a psychic. And I would say that this comes from not knowing your own psychic ability. So, you feel like you can't feel that spirit, you feel like you can't hear them or see them, so therefore your message is not getting across. But that's not true. Speaking to spirit it's like a telephone call. There's two-way communication. They're speaking to you and you are speaking to them. Now, when you can't hear them, when that phone call is not coming through to you, that has nothing to do with them not being there or there's something wrong with you or something like that. It's literally just how honed is your psychic ability. So how the psychic ability works is it is basically a spectrum. Everyone is psychic. You just sort of fall somewhere on this spectrum. Either you are very intuitive or you are just not aware of your intuitive abilities at all. And the more you strengthen it, the more you practice and do psychic exercises, the stronger that ability gets and the stronger you are able to pick up on intuitive hits. So I'm a perfect example of this. I have not been psychic my whole life. I do not think of myself being born with a gift. I actively pursued how to hone my psychic ability, and that's, you see all the certifications behind me. And I only did this a few years ago. I think, 6 years ago as of now with this recording. And what happens is when I stop practicing, when I stop doing as much exercises or readings, my ability kind of gets a little bit worse and I can't rely on it as much. But if I'm constantly practicing, constantly doing things, I have readings at group events, I do these videos and I'm just kind of talking about it and practicing and coaching, then my ability gets stronger and stronger and I'm able to connect. So going back to this whole point of if you're trying to connect to a spirit and you're frustrated because you're like, I can't see them, I can't hear them, I can't feel them, don't chalk this up as something is wrong with you, or maybe that the spirit doesn't want to talk to you. This is literally just your psychic ability. Your telephone receiver is not picking up what they are sending because you don't really have your psychic ability honed. So if you're wanting to learn more about that, definitely browse around my channel. That's kind of all I do, is coach you guys through how to strengthen your psychic ability. But you don't have to hone your psychic ability to speak to spirits. I just wanted to sort of mention it because, things like your religious beliefs can hinder your psychic ability. So if you don't believe that the psychic ability is an okay thing to explore, if you believe that it's like scary devil worshipping stuff, then that sort of places a mental block on your psychic ability, and you can't pick up information because you're telling yourself, oh, the psychic ability is not real, it doesn't work, or it's not part of my belief system. And so anytime you have any of those limiting beliefs, those are blocks to your psychic ability. So there's a lot that goes on here. So it makes sense if your psychic ability is not honed, if you have any of those sort of mental blocks around it and why you can't do it, then yeah, you're not going to pick up information. And so again, my whole channel is all about how to hone your psychic ability. Check it out. I have a whole course on it. So with this understanding, hopefully you should know that, okay, yes, that spirit, my loved one, can hear me. I just might not be able to hear them. So I want to give you guys some tips of what you can do to connect with them. One thing you can do is, even if you don't feel them, picture them in your mind. Sit down, maybe imagine that they walk into the room. You might not actually be able to feel them. They might not actually be there. But when you imagine them and you set the intention, you're sort of inviting them in and saying, hey, I'm talking to you. I want to talk to you. I want to send you some love, whatever it may be. So what you can do is you can imagine them sitting on a chair in your room, and you can just send them white light. That is a great, easy way of basically giving them some love, giving them some light if you're worried about them, or if you just want to show them that you love them. Side note, this is also pertaining a lot to animals too. So if you feel like you want to connect to your animals, but you feel like you can't hear what they say, this is the advice that I give everybody. Say things out loud to them, or say things in your mind. Either way, they can hear you. You just might not be able to hear them yet. Another thing you could do is you can write your loved one a letter, and you can leave it somewhere for them, maybe somewhere significant, or you can burn it, and sort of as you burn it and visualize those flames and those ashes rising up, you can imagine that message being sent to your loved one. A perfect example of this literally just happened last week. When my cousin passed, I had a dream, and in the dream, my guides were telling me that one of my siblings wrote him a letter, and they were like, hey, just send him confirmation that he saw that letter. And so I called up my sibling and I was like, hey, did you maybe write our cousin a letter? And he basically confirmed it and was like, oh my gosh, yes, this definitely happened. And I think that's just great confirmation that, those two were having a connection. Outside of me, I could have not said anything and just not shared it. But because it's somebody I know personally, I felt like it was okay. Basically, he was writing him a letter. Spirit heard that letter and wanted to say, hey, I heard it. And you might not get that confirmation, but know that that does happen, and they do hear you, they do listen. Obviously, one of the big ways is to connect with loved ones in dreams. Now, a lot of us get really upset when we can't connect with loved ones in dreams, and know that this is like one of the hardest things to do. And so don't beat yourself up if you're not able to connect with that loved one in a dream. There's a lot that goes into dreaming, and dreaming you don't have a whole lot of control over. Once you're out, you don't, it's not like waking state where you can do XYZ. You have to become lucid, and then you have to do all these things, and not trying to make it sound more difficult than it is, because sometimes it can come really easily to a lot of us. But I would say don't use dreaming as your first go-to, because you might be disappointed. It takes a lot of work to be able to incubate your dreams, to become lucid, to even just remember your dreams. And so that's kind of like, I put that at the very last suggestion of how to connect with your loved ones. But you know, sometimes they will come through to you, and that was my dog. So if you really are interested in connecting with them in your dreams, check out the video review I did of the book Lucid Dreaming. That one I highly suggest if you're trying to connect to loved ones. And I also am going to have some videos out on dreaming soon. Now these exercises are more for you and less for them. I mean, you can say things in your head and they will hear you, but I think a lot of us sometimes need to feel like we're doing something physical or out loud in order to be heard, and that's totally fine. But don't at all think that they can't hear you if you're not doing something in a certain way. If this isn't enough, if you want to be able to feel them and if you want to be able to see them or hear them, definitely check out my psychic course. I teach you guys just the basics of how to connect with your psychic ability. Mediumship, connecting with loved ones, is kind of like that next level, but you need the basics of understanding psychic ability, how to protect yourself, how to turn on and off your ability, all that good stuff. Check that out in my course, which is linked down below. So just remember, even if you can't hear or feel or see them, remember that this might have something to do with your psychic ability either being blocked or just not honed, or maybe you just don't trust it as much as you could be. But know that your loved ones can hear you. You don't need a psychic to just tell them you love them. You know, sit down, send them messages, send them letters, write them poems, do whatever feels right to you, and just trust that they will hear it. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. Please let me know in the comments if you have any other questions about stuff like this. I think this was a very serendipitous thing that happened, even though it came from a bad experience and losing someone in my family. I think a lot of interesting things have come out of it that I hope I can pass along as guidance, either connecting to your loved ones or if there's other psychics out there who are trying to hone their ability and get better at this stuff. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I will see you next time. Bye!